Coming up now in your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, John Cena says he doesn't have much time left on his in-ring career. Bayley says that she is destined to wrestle Sasha Banks in WWE again. And we've also got an update on who the big winners and losers in the television ratings were this week. All that and more coming up now. All right, starting things off with an update on Seth Rollins. Well, actually, there is no update on Seth Rollins. So he appeared to hurt his left knee during his match with Jinder Mahal in the main event of WWE Raw. There were reports on Tuesday that he was having trouble walking on the leg backstage afterwards. He was walking with a limp, although he could put weight on it. He was scheduled for an MRI. However, if the results of that MRI are available, the people who know about it aren't talking. So we still don't know if Seth Rollins' injury is serious, if it's something that could potentially keep him out of WrestleMania. And that would be a huge blow for WWE, considering one of the big matches planned for WrestleMania this year is Rollins and CM Punk. So no update currently available. As soon as there is one, we will try and get it to you as quickly as possible. And John Cena took part in an interview with People magazine. You can see it's up there on your screen right now. And during this interview, he talked a bit about how he recently turned 47 years old and he's aware that his in-ring career doesn't have a lot of time left in it. And he's actually been trying to plan how he ends his in-ring career with WWE. So here's a little bit about what he said. It is highlighted there up on your screen now. So Cena said, "I turned 47 this past year and I don't have much time left in the WWE." And later he says, "I think it's just the demand of age. You know, I'm trying to figure out when to close that chapter." And it mentions here that he started his pro career in 1998. He was signed to a developmental deal with WWE in 2001. So he had a little bit of a pre-WWE career, but not a lot of it. He continued, "I wouldn't be who I am professionally or personally without the WWE, and I promised myself that I would never simply just be there for my own sake. Every time I perform, I want to give my all to the audience, and I've got to admit, when I hit the 45 mark, I had to begin to try to form an exit strategy, and I'm trying to work on that currently." And later, when they were asking him about what he would like to do for his finale in WWE, and Cena said he would do whatever is the best thing for the company. He said, "I just want to do what's best for the company. If it's a big final match, or if it's just a final match, or however I can be integrated into the product to let everyone know that this chapter is over, I'm willing to listen to what WWE has to say." All right, and some fairly good news here for New Japan Pro Wrestling, specifically as it concerns New Japan Pro Wrestling's popularity in the United States. So they have an event coming up, New Japan Pro Wrestling Windy City Riot in Chicago from the Wintrust Arena on Friday, April the 12th. They recently just announced that Tetsuya Naito will face Jon Moxley on the show. Hiromu Takahashi will face Mustafa Ali. And so up on your screen right now is from a couple of days ago. The tickets were selling very, very well for this show. They had sold 2,472 tickets. That's very good for a New Japan Pro Wrestling show in the United States. I mean, that's with a number like that, they're beating some television shows tapings for AEW. So this is a very big number for New Japan Pro Wrestling in Chicago. Of course, Chicago's a huge market as well, but it definitely seems like fans are into the idea of seeing Naito and Moxley and Takahashi and Mustafa Ali. Now, selling that many tickets is great. Now, I'm not sure what exactly this means in terms of how many tickets they've sold in the last couple of days, but on Wednesday evening at 7:17 p.m., they tweeted out that their current configuration at the Wintrust Arena for Windy City Riot is sold out. So they will be opening more sections imminently. Stay tuned for more information. So Wrestle Tickets previously had it that The setup that they were selling tickets to was 3,500 fans. So it could be the case that New Japan Pro Wrestling has sold as many as 3,500 tickets to this show. And kind of an interesting story from the world of Lucha Libre up on your screen right now. That's a picture of Black Taurus. You probably know him from, he's been in Impact Wrestling. He wrestled Vikingo at Final Battle in December. He also wrestled Vikingo on an episode of AEW Rampage in December as well. Of course, he is Taurus in AAA, does a lot of wrestling in Mexico. So there's an interesting story that came out regarding Taurus today, and this is from Lucha Blog. If you don't know who Lucha Blog is, so it's a guy, his name is, well, his nickname, I guess, is the Cubs fan. And if you go to luchablog.com, if you ever wanted to find out more about Lucha Libre, dive deeper into the world of Lucha Libre, this is the website that you need to go to. It's luchablog.com. And so he had this information up on Taurus. So Taurus announced early this month that he was now a free agent and he's going to wrestle as a free agent in the United States and Mexico. So when he first debuted in AAA in 2015, he was named Taurus. He had the big bull gimmick, which a lot of people like what a bull he is, right? But Triple H owned the name Taurus. And then when he left AAA the following year, he modified the gimmick slightly so that he would be Black Taurus. And AAA never raised any objections to this about him using a gimmick and gimmick name so close to the one that they own the rights to. He goes back to AAA in 2018, and when he wrestles in AAA, he's Taurus. When he wrestles outside of AAA, he's Black Taurus. However, even though AAA had not raised any objections to this since he started doing it in 2016, they now, according to Lucha Blog, have raised an objection to this, and the reason being that it is, according to Lucha Blog, Black Taurus has agreed to a deal with AEW and Ring of Honor. So, however, he will now have to change his name and change his gimmick a little bit while in AEW or in Ring of Honor. So we'll just kind of have to see what happens as a result of this. But here's a little bit of what Lucha Blog wrote about it. So, all right. So up on your screen now, it is highlighted. It says TV is the key here. AAA is probably not this upset if he's written Taurus's name here as Bert. That's not his real name. TV is key here. AAA is probably not this upset if Bert is working untelevised indies, and there's no reason for Bert to invest into a new character without TV promotion to get it over. It may take a few days for you to read this same information behind a paywall, but this means Bert's got an AEW ROH deal. So, Taurus, according to Lucha Blog, has signed on with AEW and ROH, but needs to change his gimmick because AAA owns the rights to it. So kind of an interesting developing story there, and we'll see what comes of it. All right, and Sports Illustrated today published an interview that they had with Bayley. And so there was a few quotes here that have been making the rounds in wrestling circles. One thing that she said is on rumors of Sasha Banks possibly coming back to WWE, Bayley said, "We'll always be destined for one more match." Bayley has made no secret that she would like Sasha Banks to return to WWE. However, what Sasha Banks does is completely unknown. Every day there's a new story coming out about why it's so-and-so is now convinced that Sasha Banks is returning to WWE, or there's a story about how she's going to AEW. The truth is nobody knows. Probably Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks doesn't know either. I think she could still end up back in WWE. She could end up in AEW. There was a report not long ago that WWE said that talks had broken off with Sasha Banks as she was asking for too much money. But that's the kind of thing that you might say in the middle of a negotiation if you want somebody to bring down their asking price. So the idea that Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks isn't coming back to WWE is not nearly locked in. Okay, so we don't cover a lot of Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling in the shows that we do here, but I think there's a lot of reason to start paying a little bit more attention to TNA Wrestling. They had a good crowd at the Palms in Las Vegas on both Saturday and Sunday for their shows. Over 1,000 people at each show, and that really helps the promotion feel more major league. And now uh, they've got a TV show tonight, which I think a lot of people might want to check out. Like if you've been on the fence about maybe going back to TNA and checking it out, this might be a show that you check out. I watched Hard to Kill. I was like, I think there's some momentum here. So here's what they've got lined up for tonight's TNA Impact on Access TV. Up on your screen right now, they just announced this. Ash by Elegance is the formerly known as Dana Brooke. She's going to be in action tonight. So it's her first wrestling match since being released from WWE. I've heard a bunch of interviews with her, and she's got a bit of a chip on her shoulder right now. She wants to show everybody that wrestling fans and WWE undervalued her, undervalued what she can bring to the ring. And if she's going to show people that they were wrong in their opinions of her, it's going to start on tonight's show. So she's going to be wrestling someone. Also for tonight, the grizzled young veterans who made their debut for TNA at Hard to Kill this weekend, they're going to be in action taking on two TNA originals, or if not originals, like close to it, in Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian. So a couple of grizzled young vets against some grizzled old vets on that one. We're going to have a six-way X Division scramble match featuring some fantastic wrestlers. There are truly some fantastic wrestlers in this match. Kushida versus Trey Miguel versus Laredo Kid versus Mike Bailey versus El Hijo del Kingo. Good Lord. Versus Jake something. So there's six great wrestlers. Going to have at least a good wrestling match in front of a good-sized crowd in Las Vegas. That'll air tonight. Also, we're going to see Zaya Brookside. She debuted for the promotion at Hard to Kill in the Ultimate X match. She's going to be taking on former Knockouts world champion Tasha Steelz tonight. So that should be interesting as well. And all right, in the main event, I don't think a wrestling match can be better than what these two can put on. Josh Alexander versus Will Ospreay 2. It was filmed on Sunday. It'll air tonight. The first match was fantastic. It took place last October, aired last November, got very good reviews. I can't imagine their second match not being as good. So that will air on TNA Impact tonight. And also, we will hear from Nick Nemeth, the most wanted man, or the wanted man, Nick Nemeth. And so much like kind of how I said, I think Dana Brooks got a chip on her shoulder, wants to show WWE and wrestling fans that they undervalued her. I think Nick Nemeth wants to show everybody that he actually does have that potential we all thought he did back in the early 2010s, that this guy can go on to become a big, big star in this industry. If he's going to do it outside of WWE, it starts tonight on TNA Impact. So, and we're going to end off this video talking about who were the big winners and losers in terms of television ratings this week. Who are the wrestlers that saw their segments bring in a spike in viewership, and who are the wrestlers that had segments that caused a dip in viewership? So let's start things off with, we don't have the ratings for last night's Dynamite yet. So it'll be interesting to see how Samoa Joe versus Hook did. We do know that on the previous AEW Dynamite, they had a talking segment where Samoa Joe came out as the new AEW World Champion. Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page, and Hook would end up confronting him. That segment on AEW Dynamite caused a huge spike. So fans were very interested in what Samoa Joe had to say now that he was the new AEW World Champion. And so now it'll be kind of interesting to see how well his main event match with Hook did, but we'll have to wait for a future video to talk about that. The most noticeable spike this week in wrestling, well, there were two that were kind of tied. And we'll talk about on Friday night, there was a match between Bayley and Bianca Belair on SmackDown that did very well in the ratings, a noticeable uptick in viewership when compared to how that segment normally does on other shows. So fans were definitely interested in Bayley versus Bianca Belair on SmackDown. Also on Raw, there was one segment that caused a real spike in viewership. And Raw on Monday was under some tough competition. There was the NFL playoffs. I think the Emmys were on too. So it was kind of a tough go for that Raw. But Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley had a promo segment on that show that caused a huge spike in viewership. So fans very interested in Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. If you're interested, the Jinder Mahal Seth Rollins main event match did basically what a Raw main event match does. It didn't cause a spike or a dip. It just followed the pattern that Raw normally does. So not much to take from that. Also concerning Raw, R-Truth, very popular right now. He was the #1 merchandise seller on WWE Shop there a little while ago, as I believe they referenced on Raw this week when R-Truth was selling Judgment Day merchandise in the parking lot before the show. None of the Judgment Day segments caused a spike or a dip in viewership this week, so it just all followed the same pattern. So nothing really to take from that in terms of R-Truth and Judgment Day's recent rise in popularity. Some other notes in terms of ratings this week. Adam Copeland's opening promo on Collision did better than the show's opening promo or opening segment normally does. So a little bit of interest in Adam Copeland. Some noticeable losers in terms of ratings this week. On NXT, the Chase U versus LWO match did not do very well, as Tozawa versus Ivar on Raw did not do very well either. And finally, the last spike in ratings that I would like to mention took place on AEW Collision, and it was the match between Deonna Purrazzo and Red Velvet. They did a good rating there that showed fans were interested in this new wrestler, Deonna Purrazzo. And if you watched our last video, you know that there's been a lot of, I don't want to say controversy, but there was a lot of toxic activity towards Deonna Purrazzo on AEW's Instagram account. And so kind of cool to see that her and Red Velvet did a good rating for Purrazzo's debut in the promotion. And that's going to do it for this video, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button, smash that subscribe button, is I believe what I'm supposed to say, and we'll see you next video. There will be a new episode of Zen and the Art of Watching Wrestling with me and Jeff coming up either tomorrow or Saturday, so be on the lookout for that.